And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, thank you for making us a part of your, whatever day it is. Friday, Ben. This week has felt so strange because there have been no Jazz games. It is like disrupted my, like I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong, but it's like disrupted my flow.
Your rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally off.
The whole rhythm of the thing.
I'm completely with you. I felt the same way.
And usually like All-Star break where there's a big break in Jazz games, we usually take a vacation during All-Star break.
Right. You fully get away.
Rarely am I home in the middle of Jazz season with no Jazz. In fact, my kids, I think it's thrown them off too.
Leave, Dad.
Yeah,
Go away.
Like a little bit of that. So anyway, they're back at it tonight, Ben. I know you're excited. And like the island home game, like the one home game for December.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Is tonight.
Yep. Until, the 28th? I think they come back and they've
got
a
right.
home game.
And
when
when was the last one?
Was the Lakers game?
I think so.
Last Monday?
That
like
feels
last Monday. Not Monday, last Monday.
That feels like a year ago.
Yeah, I think it was it's been a long time. Yeah, it was the 2nd. I want to say maybe the 1st of December. So, it's been a while.
All right, well, let's dive in. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. We're doing this now because our buddy Mitch is going to join us at 10:30, Mitch Harper, to talk about the Cougs. Steve Bartle will be with us at the top of the 11 o'clock hour to talk about the Utes. And then Cole Bagley is going to join us at 11:30 to talk about the Utah Hockey Club.
You do this all day?
Huh?
Are you doing this all day?
You don't like it?
I'm just curious what I need to be prepared for.
I was talking to the people in the producers' room before what constitutes great radio.
And they think more.
And you're saying this ain't it?
That's not quite it.
Okay.
It's not what I would.
No. I was telling.
It's not what I'd lean into.
I was telling Christian to never be afraid if you and I get carried away with something that's not entertaining, to say, let's get back on track.
Let's get back on track. Yeah.
Let's hit a break. Like, this isn't as good as you think it is.
He asks us to hit brakes a lot, and we drive right through it.
So
we plow through it.
Is this one of those moments? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no.
The voice like this.
Yeah, I think that's the bad one. Yeah,
that's not it.
Some tune-out stuff.
That's not the one. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. 2 locations to serve you. One on Winchester Street across from Fash Place Mall. The other at Traverse Mountain in Lehigh. Man, that day is coming. Jump on it. It's right around the corner.
Yep.
Jump on it. All right, Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, the Jazz finally return to action tonight.
Okay, that was great radio. That was really funny.
Very funny.
All right, we were just talking about that. Ben, back at Delta Center. If you actually want to watch the Jazz in person, now is the time.
Last time before Christmas. This is your chance. Jazz hosting the Phoenix Suns tonight. Suns have not been very good when Kevin Durant has not played.
Well, yeah, they're. What level of contender are you putting the Suns at?
Pretender.
Let me put they're still in the pretender category because they made some moves around the edges. I don't think that were bad.
No, I like their offseason a lot.
But they weren't particularly good last year. They weren't. They were an underachieving team.
Yeah, they added Tyus Jones. They added Monty Morris. They drafted well, specifically Ryan Dunn, their kind of defensive specialist who everyone was excited about his shooting, and it has fallen back to earth quite a bit.
Well, Zeke's pulling the strings. He's doing a good job.
They still have Nurkic, who's not good, and that's the problem. He's just not a... He has moments, but he's not reliable enough to be a guy that's going to be a starting center on a championship team.
And that's when he plays.
Which is,
rarely.
So Kevin Durant probable tonight if you're going to the game, so that's exciting. You do have a chance to see him play, most likely. But they are not a full-blown contender. They are good when they have Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's already missed a bunch of games this year because he's old and injury-prone now at this point. Look, Devin Booker's a great player. That one year he had where they made the finals is looking a little bit more like an aberration. And he's still very good.
Well, yeah, the whole team is different.
And that whole year was weird.
He's the only same player on the team.
As we've realized, that was a very strange year in the NBA. Nobody has been able to really repeat the success of that year since then. The year after COVID.
That was 2021?
Yeah, it was just a shortened season. It was a weird season, and the Bucks win the title. And the Suns are still, I don't want to say coasting off of that, but still have that reputation.
What month did they play that? August? No.
No, I think they got back on track. Right? They got pretty close to back on track.
2021, if we're talking about the same year.
It was July.
It was July. Because the Jazz lost. This is a funny story. The Jazz lost
on your 40th birthday.
A day before, the night before my 40th birthday, which is in June.
Right.
Because my wife was really sweating that because she had a weekend planned.
Sure.
In good old Park City, which turned out to be a roaring good time. Considering nobody was doing much traveling in 2021.
Right.
It was a good solution or whatever. But she had it all planned out, and it was a surprise. And the Jazz epic playoff collapse that year because they lost to the Clippers, even though they were up 2-0?
2-0.
Totally played out in her favor.
Questionable Jordan Clarkson tonight. Lauri Markkanen also questionable. They have left a lot of guys with the G League. I know there was some question about that. Taylor Hendricks, obviously, he's just out for the season. Svi Mikhailiuk is out with the groin strain. Isaac Collier, Kyle Filipowski, Cody Williams, all down in the G League.
Can I ask you a question? Scotty G asked me yesterday when I filled in with him. Rank from most likely to least likely Jazz players moved this season.
Jordan 1, John 2, Colin 3.
Can I tell you my list?
Yeah.
I put Colin 1.
Okay.
John Collins 2. Jordan Clarkson 3. Drew Eubanks 4.
Oh, I would probably put Drew Eubanks and Svi Mikhailiuk, I guess, in 1 and 2.
Okay, if we're counting them, they're that's why they were signed. They were
brought in to be moved.
Signed to be traded. Okay, I could buy into that. So those two, 1 and 2. But out of those three players, I ranked Colin 1, John 2, and Jordan 3.
I think Colin has a lot of value because he's a very good player. Point guards they're plentiful right now. There are a lot of really good guards. John Collins still makes $25 million, and that's what's hard about John is he still makes a lot.
Right.
Jordan, there are still teams that are going to need instant offense, and Jordan can play, and I think a lot of what's been going on with Jordan is making sure that he doesn't get hurt while he's out hurt.
I see. That's the one I don't know if I agree with. I think if Jordan were that valuable, he would not currently be on the team.
I suspect the Jazz have had a specific asking price, and I wonder if they would back off of that now.
That's the argument, but I have a feeling they backed off of that a while ago.
Maybe. It's very possible. Yeah, I don't know.
And maybe not. I'm not sure. And this is no offense to Jordan, but he just doesn't fit in what they're doing.
He's 30 plus now. He's one of 2 30-year-olds that are on the team, right?
Yeah. And if anything, like he's too good. They're not really trying to win games. Certainly not trying to win games now. So it just doesn't fit. I mean, obviously, fan favorite. I know for a fact they love him in the building, like the team, the franchise.
Longest tenured player.
Yeah.
He's
all
a
that.
top 20 Jazz man all time, I think, very much in that conversation.
I am way buying into our Lakers and Colin Sexton thing.
Yeah.
Because he's playing great.
Yep.
They need specifically him.
They need a bounce.
And he's a clutch guy.
Yeah.
But that also banks on the Lakers actually making a smart move, which that would be a really smart move for them.
I agree.
I think.
I agree.
So I'm buying into that with Colin. John Collins, if he continues at his pace, somebody will eat his contract. The problem is that his contract stinks because there's one more year on it.
It's a player option. Now, here's the nice thing. If John's playing this well,
he might opt out.
He could legitimately opt out. John Collins right now is averaging 18 points, 8 rebounds, and he's in the 50-40-90 club. He's shooting 50% from the floor, 40% from 3, 90% from the free throw line.
If that's true that he could possibly opt out at the end of the year, there would already be teams lining up to get him right now.
Yeah.
And that would make him number 1 on the list.
Yep. And
because if he's good enough to opt out of that deal and he's not a potential salary minus, then you're trading for that guy right now. I mean, everybody, like any contender would take him on their team if that were the case.
I totally agree. And there's not good. I mean, free agency is basically dead in the NBA. There's not good free agents.
I don't think he is going to opt out, and I don't think that's true. I don't think there are teams lining up for him. Maybe they should be, but I don't think that's the case. So I don't think he is an automatic opt-out.
I agree with you. He's not an automatic opt-out. It is a really bad free agency class, as it is always. It's always a bad free agency class. So if you have money and you want to spend it and you think you want to get a 28-year-old player who's entering his prime, coming off of truly probably his best season, it's not a bad time to be John Collins, because your option is pick up your $25 million, or if someone comes to your agent and says, hey, man, we think we've got – I mean, it might just be 3 years and $60. It might be less tomorrow or less today, more tomorrow on a contract, and he might be willing to do that. So we'll see. Money's climbing right now in the NBA. We will see.
Yeah. I don't know. That's not how teams really spend money anymore.
No, it's not.
They don't spend it on free agents. They spend it on big trades.
Or retaining their own people.
Or extensions. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. We can move on. What's next?
Number 2, 5 straight road wins for the Utah Hockey Club. 4-1 win over Colorado last night.
I'm quickly learning in hockey that home road absolutely does not matter. Like, it doesn't matter as much as people think it does in other sports, but in hockey, it makes no difference.
Certainly doesn't matter when you have a hot goalie. And right now, Utah has a hot goalie. Vejmelka is playing out of his mind.
You know, I always like to think of this on the list of factors in a win or a loss. Like in hockey, I think home ice is like 800th. Like what you're talking about is reason maybe 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, right. Right.
Actual home ice or whatever, I think is way down the list.
Quickly, before we leave the Jazz too far behind, I just said that Kyle Filipowski and Isaiah Collier were still with the G League. They were reported out yesterday. Jazz have just recalled them, so I imagine they'll be in uniform tonight. Neither here nor there. I do think you're right. I think it's less of a big deal than it is in other sports, especially where we're so used to the Jazz having a huge home court advantage. But this is tied for the longest road win streak in NHL history for a team in its inaugural season. And because they play San Jose, I mean, all these other teams this counts every team that's ever relocated, I believe.
Okay.
So in every team that brings its whole roster
in a new town.
Yeah. So if they beat tomorrow San Jose, who's not a very good team, they would have the new record. Now we'll see if they do that.
Hey, that's cool.
But again, Vejmelka is playing awesome. Dylan Guenther last night, 2 goals. I think he had an assist also. Cooley had a couple of assists. They're just really, it feels like they're clicking. It feels like it did really early in the season, and not just, hey, we're brand new, we're excited to be on the ice. It just feels like there's a lot of faith in the team playing with each other.
Okay. But I don't think you can determine all that based on a 5-game, because that feels way more random to me than actually an accomplishment. Because
very possible.
The Utah Hockey Club is an average team. You know, when the Whale moved to Carolina, I don't know what kind of team maybe they were awesome. Maybe they were way better than the Utah Hockey Club. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm getting used to the sport, like the subtlety of it all.
Yep.
Winning 5 road college football games in a row would be something, I suppose, that would prove a lot more to me than I think that winning 5 road games in the NHL proves. So maybe all those positive things you just mentioned are all true. I don't think they're proven out by the fact that they've won 5 road games.
I think that's fair. I think, though, you look at how many games that they were going to OT early in the season. Every game was a 1-goal game towards the end. They are starting to give themselves breathing room, which, again, hot goalie, but also like the offense is really clicking again. And you look at they've won 3 of their last 4. They won 4 of their last 6.
Yeah, they've gotten better.
The power play's a lot better. I mean, they beat Vegas 6-0. They beat Buffalo 5-2. They beat Philly 4-2. They just beat Colorado 4-1. It's like not only are they winning because they've got a hot goalie, but like the offense is really clicking now too. So it feels like all the pieces are starting to click finally, which, you know what? You made a bunch of acquisitions in the offseason. You brought in Sergachev. You traded for Olimata midway through the year, or early in the year. You've had to make adjustments to losing Sean Durza. You've had to figure out what that front line's going to look like. So all of these things are starting to work out. Feels like in their favor. But yeah, 5 games. You can't draw that this is who they're going to be the rest of the year.
Now, I want to know, and maybe I should save this for Cole Bagley. I want to know if they're still leading the league in penalties.
I bet they're not. Well,
They were, if they're not, they were up until very recently.
probably not over the last 5 games. They have not been in the box.
Well, they got to
to
fix that.
You want more penalties.
Yeah, remember when we had the Bear on the show? I told him that my whole ethos as a coach would be to play dirty and cheat. And I said, so what is yours? And he said, well, play dirty and cheat. Yeah, yes.
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
The only
Play dirty and cheat. Yeah, that's the plan. But it's like Jerry Sloan with fouls. That's not a knock. That's the plan.
the only time right now Vamelka is giving up goals is when they are shorthanded. So, no, I think play
Yeah,
clean.
and Jerry Sloan didn't win every game. What do you want from me?
Never won a title.
Are they still leading the league in?
The Bruins lead in penalty minutes with 354. Utah Hockey Club is right there at number 2, 327.
Oh,
And
man,
that's penalty minutes, not actual penalties.
Okay, well, we can get that crown back.
How about we don't? Keep playing well. They've been fun to watch.
Do they? Who's the I guess quote unquote best in the league in penalty minutes, Christian?
Who has the fewest? All right.
I don't know.
The Vegas Golden Knights,
Nobody fears them.
158.
Nobody fears them. They're not a team that anyone in the NHL truly fears.
Let's see. Where's Vegas in the standings? Really
Now
quickly?
the hockey
Vegas
club.
is number 1 in their division. So, yeah, don't get penalties.
Nobody fears them.
Listen, no one fears them. I'm not saying like Mike Leach won a bunch of games. Nobody feared his team.
That's true. Do you have a list of all the where are the Jets? I'm curious.
Do you want to be?
Jets are number 8
Okay.
with 282.
Is that 8th from the bottom or 8th from the top?
Number 8th in total penalty minutes,
So-
yeah.
8 from the top.
Yes.
Bruins
yeah,
are
yeah.
number 1.
Right.
Okay. So there's not like a super strong rhyme or reason.
So it seems
of-
like there's no correlation to this stat. And
Exactly.
wins.
So, do you want to be the team that everybody fears, or do you want to be the team that everybody's like, oh, I don't know, I guess their stick work is kind of good? Give me the team everybody fears. Oh, that team is fast. How cute.
what's the
No,
what's the
I
Paul
wanna
Newman
be-
movie?
Yeah,
What's the ice
exactly.
skating movie or a hockey movie? Ice skating.
See, now you put me on the spot. I can't remember, even though I've seen the movie.
Slapshot.
Slapshot,
Yeah.
yes.
You want to be Slapshot.
Yeah.
NHL hits. Sure.
I mean, what kind of vibe does the franchise want to have? I don't want to be fast.
A lot of blood on the ice.
Yes. Are we here to fool around, or are we here to play hockey? That's the team that I
It
want to
sounds like
root
you want
for.
the team that wants to fool around.
Absolutely not. Next.
Number 3 of the Utes officially had 2 offensive coaches.
Yeah, we talked about Mark Ottawaya was going to be named. I'm not sure if he had been officially named in the morning or not. I know the report had been released. And now Micah Simon, also a former BYU receiver, had a cup of coffee in the NFL. I don't know if he even played in a regular season game. But
He did. Isn't he married to Zach Wilson's ex?
Oh, is he?
Isn't Micah Simon the whole reason we found out about Zach's affinity for middle-aged women?
I do not remember that, but very possible.
You need to remember these things, Ben, because they're either like crazy figments
No,
of my
it was Dax Milne.
Yeah, so you're making people
Oh,
up.
That's what
You're
I'm
right.
saying.
He was in Washington,
it was
right? Yeah, Dax was in
Milne.
the NFL when this happened.
Okay.
So yeah, you're making up people.
Okay. All right. You're right.
Micah Simon had the
You're
game
right.
winner at Tennessee, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Okay. No, I remember certainly Micah at BYU. I was getting
It sounds like you don't.
I was getting the salacious details of his personal life mixed up with somebody else.
I don't think these people are anything alike Dax Milne and Micah Simon.
You better apologize.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
apologies.
right.
I shouldn't
I
be
think
waving
there
that
should
stuff
be a
around.
lawsuit.
Yeah,
I think I
no.
would-
Hey,
yeah, we
shut
should get
up.
lawyers on-
Shut up.
On Jake.
What are you
for
doing?
slander.
No, I was apologies. I was getting my.
Will you record that and make sure we play it in a donut a lot so people hear it?
Oh,
'Cause
no.
now that he's moved back to Utah,
No, don't do that.
he can hear it.
No, let's not do that.
So shout out to overall great guy Micah Simon, not the slanderous person that Jake has labeled.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Listen to Ben, but not about the lawyer thing.
And Mark Ottawaya. So
Who is a great coach? Mark's got a great track record. Everybody out there who knows him seems to say warm things. Did you see Guy Holiday was talking about him on
yeah, he was.
on the Snap Talk yesterday?
Simon was at New Mexico with John Beck also, or Jason Beck, excuse me. So everybody Everybody's
Good.
familiar with one another.
Let's get his background correct.
And a bunch of BYU people.
Let's do that.
Joining up at the University of Utah, see if they can get that. See if they can get that offense
Thank you,
going.
Ben. Yeah, this is why you need to remember this stuff because
I said it wasn't him. I literally said I don't think that was him.
I'm depending on you.
So the offensive coaching staff is. I'm curious if it's complete.
Be better.
Yeah, me be better.
Accountability is a two-way street.
Accounting for my mistakes.
Be better, please.
So
for the sake of us.
I'm excited to talk to Bartle and see what they think this means. There was a prized receiver at New Mexico. We'll see if he decides to jump up.
I don't know. Listening to the columnist that jumped on with EJ and PK, who covers New Mexico, he's the third on the list of the dynamic players transferring from New Mexico.
Yeah. Well, there's Devin Dampier.
Right.
There's Eli Sanders, who's the running back.
Yep.
Who it doesn't sound like is Utah's number one running back target, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's there if Wayshawn Parker doesn't come over. I could be totally wrong. We'll have to ask Steve about that, but that's kind of the feeling I'm getting.
Bartle will be dropping his bombs coming up at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Mitch Harper is going to be next, and Cole Bagley at 11:30. Stay tuned. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Let's start off with the good news of Kyle Whittingham coming back. Tell me what that means for this Utah team and what kind of legacy are we going to see Kyle Whittingham hopefully set himself up for this next season?
He's worked too hard. He's accomplished too much of that program. He's the Lovell Edwards of Utah football. You think he wants to go out 5-7? Of course not. The challenge for Kyle Whittingham now is to come back with a renewed energy and vigor to turn this program around. Kyle Whittingham has to rebuild his own program. There's a lot of changes already. We're up past 15 players that are in the portal. He's got a brand new offensive coordinator in Jason Beck. Utah looks completely different now than they did even 3 or 4 weeks ago. This is going to be a lasting part of his legacy, is to turn around the program that went 5-7 and turn them into something special next season. And a lot of work Alex is going to have to go into that.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to get the inside info on BYU with Cougar insider Mitch Harper of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ed, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you about Win Ticket Wednesday, your chance to win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone. This week, you can win a pair of tickets to Toto, Men at Work, and Christopher Cross, August 27th, 2025. Why did they put the year? Yeah, of course, August 27th. It's not 2027.
It's next August.
At Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. And yes, if you put it on here, I'm going to read it. I could have just skipped over 2025, but no. Dude, I'm reading that. Speaking of things you should read. Yeah. Joining us now, he covers the Cougs for KSLSports.com. And he joins us on Fridays. He's so nice to do so. He's our buddy Mitch Harper. What's up, Mitch?
Hey, good morning, guys. Happy to be on.
Mitch, it's almost strange to talk about AJ Dybantsa. I mean, it's so different than anything that has ever happened in our state. It's any different than anything that's ever happened at BYU. How have you, I mean, I know this has been kind of a possibility for a long time, really for a couple of months now. How have you felt about it, covering it? How do you think people at BYU are feeling about it? Because it almost feels a little bit surreal.
It is surreal. I mean, in just my experience covering BYU basketball and BYU football recruiting for that matter, never been around a prospect like this, where you're talking about a guy that could be, 7 years from now, maybe the best in the NBA potentially. And, it really stood out to me when I got in touch with him and he came to Broadcast House and we did an interview, and the messaging, just that fact alone, that said interest, because I've done a lot of recruiting coverage and interviews with recruits. And, when they're not interested in the team that I'm specifically covering, and it's pretty clear I cover BYU, they'll pretty much go kind of radio silent at times. Dybantsa was willing to talk BYU, and, he was very impressed by that unofficial visit. He kept his commentary close to the vest, but you could tell the connections that Kevin Young had to players that he aspired to be resonated with him. And you knew NIL was going to be a big piece for anyone that's going to be in the mix for AJ Dybantsa, because that's just what it is now, especially with revenue sharing as a piece too. Teams are going to have tons of NIL, but do you have the program that can resemble an NBA style? And Kevin Young provides that by his accolades and his credentials. And throughout the whole process, Dybantsa was very, interested in BYU and made that pretty clear that they were definitely in the mix, and they continue to be in the mix. And BYU, their coaching staff, I mean, they were relentless in going to nearly every game that he was playing in and communicating with him. I mean, when the contact period opened up in August, they sent their whole entire coaching staff down to St. George and spoke to him in person. I mean, they made him priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, he was everything to them, because they understand that not only will he only play 1 year, he's planning on being a one and done, but the value that he provides and legitimacy he provides to that staff, Kevin Young, and that program now, it's significant, because now it could have a ripple effect moving forward in other recruits, where they're going to go, what's going on at BYU? Do I need to look at them more? So, yes, it is surreal, and it's a big win for BYU and for BYU, really, athletics.
I've got a take for you, Mitch, and I'm just curious to your reaction. So this is less of a question than really my observing, but a topic, like kind of a hot topic in radio land since Dybantsa signed, was what has changed at BYU? What has changed? What has changed with the attitude of the university? And where I do think some things, like I don't think they're quite as crazy about the honor code anymore. Like there are some subtle changes there, but I would argue that nothing has changed at BYU, but the circumstances changing around BYU have absolutely been ideal. And here's what I mean. The new NIL stuff has solved two problems for BYU at once. One is that BYU cannot dip into tithing for their athletic budget. They won't do it. They can't do it. It's a really good reason that they don't do it. They're notorious for it. You know it, Mitch, that they have to run their athletic program in the black, hard and fast. That money is not coming out of tithing money. So they could not pay athletes with whatever coffers. It has to be a self-sustaining athletic budget. So this solves that, because the money is not coming from BYU. It's coming from outside. And then it solves the second problem that BYU did have, and that's their issue was people wanted to be too close to the program. You want a trip to Legoland? I'll get you a trip to Legoland. You know what I mean? And now all that's all above board. So they're doing cartwheels down there, because this change totally benefits what they have going for them. It's truly an advantage in those ways.
100%, because you've got a lot of people, to your point on, the amusement parks, things like that. There's passion. Like, people want to be connected to BYU sports more than, a lot of, there's tons of, programs in the power conferences, Big Ten, SEC, that probably have fan bases and boosters like that. But BYU's, different that way, where the people really kind of celebritize BYU athletes. They want to be around it. And yes, and that, having NIL gives BYU a chance to get AJ Dybantsa, because if you don't have NIL, you're losing him to North Carolina or, whatever school, Bama, because they would have probably got the paycheck for Dybantsa still, even when it wasn't above board. I remember, Dave Rose once saying they lost some prospects due to what they thought was players probably getting paid. And BYU was always going to toe the line, because if a program like BYU was going to suddenly get an AJ Dybantsa in an era where there wasn't NIL, the NCAA is going to be helicoptering in, and it's going to go, what's going on, and lay the hammer down. So, yes, this is all above board. And I think, too, what helps BYU's cause is that they're in the Big 12. You don't have Kevin Young if you're not in the Big 12. You don't have, a platform in a league that you can also, say, like, this year's going to be worth your while. Because even if you had Kevin Young and NIL, does Dybantsa want to role in the WCC? I don't know, maybe, but I think the Big 12 piece helps the cause as well. So a lot of factors in the last 3 years have really worked for BYU. And I think that's a promising sign for them going forward. And you're seeing it too with football, where they haven't had a mass exodus in the portal. A lot of guys are staying in, and look, they still got until the 28th to move, but they've been able to retain prospects, and they've inspired boosters. And with their head coaches, Kevin Young in particular, I mean, he laid out a vision that probably inspired people, and he's executing it. I mean, within 8 months, he's gotten Yegor Demin and AJ Dybantsa before he's even coached in a Big 12 game yet. So it's pretty impressive stuff. And now it's just a matter of, delivering, because you can't just keep, ponying up. All these boosters are going to keep ponying up for just similar results. I mean, they're going to probably want, higher level of production, and that's going to be the challenge in front of Kevin Young and his program and all sports at BYU to take it to a higher level than ever before.
So, Mitch, I'm curious about this. What is the rest of the next, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months for AJ Dybantsa look like? And what does he take part in? What does his pre-college career look like before he gets to BYU?
Yeah, so he'll be continuing with Utah Prep. They play in the Grind Session League, and they'll be having a game on Saturday night, actually, in Lehigh coming up. And so he'll continue to go through Utah Prep in that schedule until about early April, and then he'll get part of the BYU program early June is the expectation in the summertime at least. So he'll continue to go through as a high school student and go through his high school prep, Utah Prep season, and then be part of the BYU program. But a lot more eyeballs now with BYU fans going to be watching him, and it'll be interesting to see how he continues to perform. I mean, he is a highly competitive individual. I mean, I've watched him in action in person twice, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, you don't have to watch many possessions to realize that's just a special talent. I mean, again, like in my time covering BYU, I mean, I've primarily observed, in-state prospects that, 4-star. I remember watching the Lone Peak 3, and they were really good. I mean, they'd go into Chicago and take down Jahlil Okafor's team. I mean, they were pretty special, but this is just a whole different level. And, I think Kevin Young, how he's going to, manage and, kind of the path that they draw up for him is going to be kind of fascinating, how they utilize him and the schemes and whatnot. There's so many storylines to this because, and then you have the element of the Utah Jazz too. When you see Will Hardy at the game a couple nights ago and Ryan Smith, they're both there in the Hollywood seats, and you see Utah Jazz players. And, I wonder if Jazz fans are going to be keeping tabs more on BYU next year because tank for AJ Dybantsa, who could be that 2026 number one pick. So there's so many fascinating angles.
We want a Dybantsa, I think, was a user submission.
We're trying to come up with
what
that would sound like, Mitch. We're trying to be first. We want to create whatever that's going to be. So if you have any suggestion and want to be collaborative here, we're open to it. I don't think we want a Dybantsa. I don't think that's
How about a chance at Dybantsa?
Yeah, I think we need to work on it.
But yes, Mitch, Jazz fans are absolutely the biggest BYU fans now because I think they like the idea of having a couple of players from BYU in the next 12 months landing up in Utah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that, and it might not be, when they get drafted, but, if there's ever where they hit free agency and they can go back to their time in Utah and feel like they enjoyed their time and there's a comfort there. There's a connection and a relationship. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, BYU, it was kind of interesting too on Wednesday to see all the people rolling out to see in part probably AJ Dybantsa be there and be honored, introduced at halftime. They had, Ryan Smith, Will Hardy, they had some popular LDS athletes. Jeremy Guthrie, former MLB player, Kalani was there. I mean, there was a lot of people and even some with the church, but it's a big deal for BYU, and I think it's a big deal in college basketball. I mean, you're going to be talking about BYU probably as a fixture maybe on ESPN. You could see, I don't think it'll ever get to Zion Williamson levels where he was on every night on ESPN, but kind of similar to, Ben Simmons and LSU when he goes to a program that's outside the blue blood footprint, but they were kind of a fixture. I mean, every week you're seeing a nationally televised spotlight game on ESPN with Ben Simmons and LSU. I think it's going to be kind of similar with BYU and how what the opportunities that creates in scheduling. And, I just think they become a focal point nationally in college basketball. They've never experienced that ever. I mean, even with Jimmer, that didn't pick up steam until he had that half-court shot at Utah, and that was in, mid-January of his senior year. This is where you're talking about BYU hoops in the college basketball and basketball landscape for months, and they're a big storyline, and that's something that's new territory for BYU.
Mitch, thank you. We appreciate you and hope you have a good weekend.
Exciting times, Mitch. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Take care.
See you, buddy. That's our friend Mitch Harper.
We've had big quarterbacks go to BYU. That's not super uncommon. We've seen it a couple of times in the last 2 decades. This is even a different level of player. I'm very excited to see what he looks like when he gets to college and what the next
Ben, if he were that big a deal, he would have had a press conference at Iggy's.
He would carved out time to commit at Iggy's.
That's what big deals do, dude.
That's how you know you've made it.
That's what they do.
Again, Red Bull organized a helicopter to tease his announcement, not for his announcement, to tease the fact that he was going to be making an announcement. And I can't wait to see him on the floor. Again, I truly, and I mean this like in an honest way, this is not in a demeaning way at all, I have no idea what to expect. Because you heard Mitch say 2 names there in Zion Williamson, who was the most exciting thing in sports for 3 months, probably January to March. He was all anybody was talking about. And then Ben Simmons, who's one of the most disappointing college basketball players of all time. And the truth is, that's a very fair spectrum to put on somebody who knows their next stop is the number 1 overall draft pick. I don't know what, as an 18-year-old, and again, AJ Dybantsa is going to games. He's hanging out. He's putting his arms around the fellow fans at the games. He looks totally bought in, and I love that. That was a big problem for Ben Simmons. He never seemed like he had that buy-in, so that's already a huge plus. But I don't know what it's like to be 18, knowing that you're on the precipice of $100 million. I mean, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. He's going to get a huge shoe deal. He's probably already got a good one with Nike. Every clothing company is going to come after him. It's just I don't know what that's like and how you engage for 30 games when you're living in Provo. I have no idea what that's like.
First of all, he's had a shoe deal since he's 12.
Yeah, right.
I would bet you $1 million. If not him, his AAU coach or whoever takes that bribe, because that's just kind of how the thing works. Honestly, it's not a coincidence that BYU's a Nike school. What was his final? I bet you $1 zillion they're all Nike schools.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Alabama. I honestly have no idea what the schools are. It was Alabama,
Nike school.
Kansas.
Nike. No, Kansas is Adidas. Oh, that's interesting.
And I think it was North Carolina.
Nike school.
Alabama, Kansas, North Carolina, and BYU were the Final 4.
Yeah.
So maybe Kansas might have been a fake one. He was never going to Kansas.
Never going there.
Got to throw them off my trail.
It really seemed like it came down to Alabama and BYU. Those were kind of the 2.
Yet another reason Utah should ditch Under Armour. Honestly, if you were to argue to me that part of the reason Utah basketball isn't what it used to be is because it's an Under Armour school, I would believe that's at least part of it.
It's not part of it.
Adidas guys go to Kansas. Nike guys go to Duke. And Jordan is a subset of Nike, but you know where they're going by what AAU team they play for. That's how it works. That's how AAU is funded. So, Weber State's an Adidas school. It's not a coincidence that Damian Lillard is an Adidas guy.
What's Louisville? Is Louisville Adidas? Because that's also Donovan
They
Mitchell.
are Adidas. Yep.
Yeah, I will tell you, I go to the thrift stores a lot. It's kind of one of my hobbies. I have never picked up a secondhand pair of Under Armour shoes. But I'll pick up Nikes and look at them and see what kind of condition they're in.
Well, they just don't have they don't have that kind of, what am I looking for?
Cachet.
No, it's not cachet. They don't have that kind of structure, like grassroots.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. They don't have like Nike's been doing this for decades. They have
Nike's a culture. Under Armour's not a culture.
They have all the coaches, the system, and Adidas has been around forever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that what was that? The Nike movie was it?
Yeah,
I would believe it's a really good movie because it's a really fascinating world. Mm-hmm. It's cutthroat, it's competitive.
Yep.
And it's worth $1 zillion. It's crazy.
I'd recommend that. It's R-rated, and it earns its R rating, but I would recommend it if you haven't seen it.
It
has some Jazz ties. They talk about Daryl Griffith, right? So it's good.
Well,
it's worth watching.
That part of the silly Lakers show, Winning Time or whatever, where Magic is deciding on if he's going to go with Converse, or Nike kind of made a close at the last minute and he picked Converse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Michael Jordan basically invented that marketing world. That could have been Magic Johnson if he would have made a
Similar
more
decision.
bold decision.
Yep. Like the catapults.
But that's also assuming that Magic Johnson was ever as marketable as Michael Jordan was. You know, Nike lucked out too.
Yeah, they did.
MJ turned out to be the most marketable athlete
Ever.
Probably still is.
Yep.
That logo made a lot of people a lot of dough. Kawhi's logo, remember how bad that was?
The hand?
No, it wasn't a hand.
They call it a claw.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's the K and the W. Or K and an L.
See, I don't even know what it is. Obviously didn't take
K and
off.
an L.
You know who's not very marketable? Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Great player.
That guy's
non-marketable.
own. Oh, I'm not going to make that joke. That's too mean. All right, stay tuned. We'll get to more next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
ABC primetime against the Heisman winner, against Shedeur Sanders, who's going to be potentially a number 1 overall pick. If it's not him, it's Travis. Against a defensive front that started to figure things out. You got an opportunity to set the standard against Colorado as an in-conference opponent and do it on a national stage. Plus, I still think the entire country is questioning the entire validity of 10-2. Well, if Colorado shows up in the Alamo Bowl, chopping at the bit, fully loaded with the Heisman winner and Shedeur Sanders, Coach Prime at his best, and all of them wanting to win that game, and you show up fully committed with a full roster, if they go 11-2, now we got to start to talk about the 2024 BYU Cougars and their existence in the hierarchy of all-time great teams at BYU.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, this segment is brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Peach Doors and Windows. Want to remind you as well to nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Was that the right one, Christian?
You nailed it.
I forgot, and I kind of guessed.
NBA Cup tickets are selling for very affordable prices if you're looking to sneak away and go down to Las Vegas tomorrow. It's because the teams playing are not exactly the highest profile. There's no Lakers. The Warriors lost to the Houston Rockets. You are going to see tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. That's Eastern time. Atlanta versus Milwaukee.
Why would you give us Eastern?
2:30 our time.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, Atlanta versus Milwaukee.
I don't live in Atlanta.
And 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 6:30 our time on ABC. Houston versus Oklahoma City. I actually think this is a cool opportunity for some of these teams that maybe people haven't watched to get some exposure. Milwaukee, you've probably seen a lot. Atlanta's actually playing a lot better right now, hence them being in the semifinals right now and advancing through the quarterfinals, beating the Knicks at Madison Square Garden to get here. Houston really is playing awesome, and Oklahoma City's a premier contender who a lot of people probably haven't seen a whole lot of, honestly, even with their success last year. So I do like the idea of the NBA Cup being an opportunity to highlight some teams that might not be playing in the Western or Eastern Conference Finals, though certainly Milwaukee and OKC are a threat to get there.
Ben, as far as cats in the wall goes, the NBA Cup is not my least. Like, I don't hate it as much.
It's not the worst one.
Is not the worst one. But it's not a big enough cat to travel for.
I agree with that.
Does that make any sense?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I don't think this thing is ever going to have any juice from a fan standpoint. Like, in the building itself. It's just not like people in Vegas will show up, I'm sure. Like,
unless it's Lakers Suns or Warriors Lakers.
Even then, I don't know. Maybe the degenerate gamblers that root for the teams will.
But no, you're not going to
sell.
sell 20,000 seats here.
Yeah,
at
that's
all. Not
that's
a chance.
not what this thing's going to be about.
Nor
Honestly,
is it what it's about.
Honestly, it's a reward for the players, and that's the idea because you're trying to get them to play hard. You're just trying to incentivize players at the beginning of the season to play hard in a few games. And it will do that because players love Vegas and players love extra money.
Yep, they do. They've already made $100,000 just by getting here. They are playing very hard, so I'm excited to see these games coming up tomorrow. I think these are going to be fun.
But
games.
I don't think like Oklahoma City fans are jumping on the plane.
You better not.
You know what I mean?
You better not.
I don't think Lakers. Maybe Lakers because LA is so close.
So close.
Maybe that was a thing. But like,
if you're in Atlanta, you're already in Atlanta. You don't need to go to Vegas. There's parties. There's parties to be had.
Right. That's what you know.
Milwaukee, there's great parties.
Like extra playoff games in college football is definitely like.
I've never been to Milwaukee. Apparently, it's not a great party town.
Is Milwaukee really? I bet it is.
Probably very different.
If you go to
parties.
Marquette, I'm sure you can find some parties.
All of Wisconsin is a party state,
but not the same type of party as Las Vegas or Atlanta.
Listen, in
not on December 14th at least.
Listen, it's every place has its charms, but when you're famous for an alcohol, like they're famous for beer, you can find a party if you're looking for it.
I believe that.
You know? Mm-hmm. Like what the Caribbean's famous for rum? Like, you're probably going to find a party in the Bahamas if you're looking for you're looking for one. All right. Speaking of parties, Steve Bartle coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The holiday season. The holidays are here. And once again, all of us at KSL Sports want to make sure you don't screw up the gifts you give this season.
So wooden turtle.
That's right. It's your chance to be the holiday MVP. Go to KSLSports.com. You can win a 4-pack of travel tumblers from Hydro Jug. Thoughtful, practical, stylish, and spill-proof. Hydro Jug is the perfect gift. Plus, we'll throw in a blanket from Minky Couture. So what are you waiting for? Be the holiday MVP now at KSLSports.com.
Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5. We know, Christian. We know it is. This segment. Wait, what am I doing? Minky. Take this. I got distracted. We're hoping to talk to Bartle coming up here in a moment. Oh, there's Hatch. I'm so glad your Niners are bad, Hatch. It brings my heart joy.
We were talking about during the break.
Want to remind you about Minky Couture. Take the stress out of Christmas shopping. Get the best blanket and gifts ever at Minky Couture. Save 50% by using the promo code ZONE50 at checkout at minkycouture.com or visit one of the 6 Minky locations. Yeah, it didn't go well for the Niners last night, right?
No touchdowns in the game, right? It was not a beautiful game.
So I have the Niners defense in my fantasy league, and somehow they didn't get me any points, even though it wasn't like a shootout game. How does that work? 12-6. What a snoozer. I didn't watch it. Was Al Michaels melting down? Because Al gets grumpy when the games are bad. Although, where was the game? Oh, San Francisco. He was fine.
Cold. It was still cold.
Oh, yeah, it is cold this time of year.
I'd rather be in L.A.
If it were in L.A., he would have gotten there last month.
Yeah, right.
Got to prep for this one.
Went for Thanksgiving and stayed.
Joining us now, he covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He joins us on Fridays. He's our buddy Steve Bartle. What's going on, Steve?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
2 new names at the University of, a lot of new names at the University of Utah. Actually, let's start with the quarterback. Let's start with Devin Dampier before we get to the new coaches. What is the expectation that he brings? You think are they going to ask the same thing of him in Utah that they did at New Mexico? And what type of a player is he?
Yeah, he's a dynamic dual threat quarterback, right? And with him coming under Jason Beck, right, playing in the same offense, it's going to be a lot of the same things. And, for Dampier, it's exciting to get to come to Utah to work under the same offensive coordinator that he was with, in New Mexico. And for Dampier, it's a big opportunity for him. So, with his game, right, he's, again, a dynamic dual threat threw for over 2,700 yards, ran for almost 1,200 yards. Just the raw numbers alone are pretty encouraging. Obviously, the 12 interceptions is something that's going to have to be improved upon, right? That number's going to have to come down. But there's a lot of talent with Devin Dampier and a lot of playmaking ability that just wasn't present at Utah, the past 2 seasons, really. And so, for him and for Utah, it's exciting because you get a quarterback that has experience in the offense, and having that at the most important position on the field is pretty significant. So, you don't want, obviously you want him to round out his game and improve, some of the little things, right? His completion percentage, cut down on the turnovers, but you still want him to beat him. And he is just a truly dynamic threat that can beat you, with his arm and with his legs. And you want that to continue at Utah.
Steve, why did Witt decide to stay, and when do you think he actually made that decision?
It's a great question, Jake. And I think based on everything that we've kind of learned, this was going to be it. This season was going to be it for him. And so, it seemed like everything was pointing to, him stepping away, towards the end of the season. And I think, at some point between that UCF game and when it was announced, what was that, on Sunday? Gosh. He came to that decision. I think it was, probably within a week or so after the season, and just, his desire to come back and to leave Utah in a better situation than this season, I think was probably a motivating factor for him, just based on conversations that I've had. And, there's certainly been some interesting developments with that in terms of, what does that mean for Morgan Scalley? I shouldn't say interesting developments, but just some interesting conversation in terms of what it means for Scalley. I think, for him and his defensive staff, for Utah to keep that crew intact while addressing the offensive side of the ball is a big thing. And I think, for Whittingham, again, I think there's just motivation to leave Utah in a better situation than what he would have left it in this season.
Steve, the other 2 names that have been brought in to Utah, Mark Ottawaya, running backs coach, Micah Simon also coming in to coach the wide receivers, both with local ties at BYU. What do they bring individually, and is there hopes that they bring players with them?
Yeah, with Mark Ottawaya, he was the guy that Beck wanted to bring in, right? And I think that's something to understand. Is like when you make a change at a coordinator position, he's usually going to want to have another coach or 2, come with him, and there's been a couple that he's brought on, and so with Ottawaya, he was the guy that he absolutely had to have at Utah, and for Ottawaya, he's a coach that's been in the game a long time, and he spent a lot of time with Jason Beck at Virginia and at BYU, and so there's a lot of familiarity there, and over the last couple of years up at Washington State, he's helped that offense produce. Obviously, understanding the offense and kind of their system and what they do there. They like to throw the ball up there, Washington State, but he's still, 2 of the last 3 seasons, they've had a couple really good running backs. And, there's certainly a good opportunity for Utah with bringing Ottawaya in. It certainly gives them, an upper hand. Maybe not upper hand, but it gives them improved odds at landing a running back named Wayshawn Parker, who, he was almost 1,000-yard rusher this season for Washington State. He's in the transfer portal. He's got a lot of interest. He's got visits lined up to USC, UCLA, and then he'll finish. He's got one more, I think, to Arizona this weekend, but then he'll finish his official visits next weekend with Utah. And so you certainly like how that lines up for Utah. Now bringing in his position coach, he's a dynamic running back, and with kind of the way that room has, some of the departures we've seen in that room, adding a player like Wayshawn Parker would be significant for Utah and Ottawaya. And then, a receiver with Micah Simon coming in. That one is going to be really interesting to follow because Simon is so young in his career. He's made a quick climb up the ranks. He only started as a position coach 2 seasons ago, went from Northern Colorado to New Mexico, and now he's here at Utah. And I think this is actually, should be beneficial for Utah in terms of you've got a younger guy in that room. He can connect. He can relate with receivers. He had a stint in the NFL, and he's a promising coach with what he did at New Mexico last season. He took Luke Wysong and Ryan Davis and really turned them into really good receivers. And so, with a young coach, there's usually an emphasis on player development, and I think that'll be key for Simon coming into that wide receiver position. Obviously, with the receivers, that have entered the portal from New Mexico, there's certainly a connection there. We'll see what happens, but I know Utah is pretty determined to bring in, a stud wide receiver, a guy that come in. They have a lot of young talent, but they need somebody to come in and kind of assume that Dorian Singer type role. So, that'll be a big priority for Simon coming in. But yeah, with both of those coaches, it's there's a lot of excitement with what they bring to the program, and I think it'll bringing in some fresh energy that they'll bring is really going to help Utah, I think, moving forward.
I know this is kind of a ghoulish question, Steve, but do we have any idea who will be retained on the offensive staff, or do you have any insight into that?
I've heard actually this morning, Jim Harding, Freddie, they're both in a good spot. I think the only changes that you'll see are the ones that have been made with Quinton Guenther. Yeah, are those two with Quinton Guenther moving on and Alvis Wooded moving on as well.
It'd be tough to can your brother. That would be hard.
Yeah, it would. With Harding, what he's done with that offensive line room, right? You have an All-American in Spencer Fano, who you helped develop, and then you've got another freshman All-American type in Caleb Lomu, and he's got that room, playing at a good level, and to keep him and to keep Freddie with that tight end group, it just makes a lot of sense.
Any indication on what Isaac Wilson might do next?
Yeah, that one, right. So with Dan Pierre coming in, what I was told was, Isaac Wilson, there's an opportunity. The door is still open at Utah for him to come back, and I think that's important to keep in mind. Isaac is a talent, and this season was tough for him. It was tough for Utah, and for him, I think he's looking for a situation where, it was kind of tailor-made for him this last season. Had Cam stayed healthy, you get Isaac Wilson, playing time, sparing playing time here and there throughout games throughout the season, but he was thrust into a position where he had to start multiple games. And I think for him, Dan Pierre coming in with 2 seasons of eligibility, that was based on what I've heard, that was kind of the factor that led to him hitting the portal. I think he's looking for a place where, he has an opportunity to compete sooner for a starting job and obviously just given Dan Pierre's experience in Beck's offense, he's obviously coming in to be that starter for Utah. So, it'll be interesting to follow. He's got some suitors in BYU, UCLA, and then a few others. I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma State got in the mix with him and that. But yeah, the door is still open at Utah. But I think the odds are more likely that he'll end up elsewhere.
This is not Utah related, but what did you think about UNLV hiring Dan Mullen?
Honestly, not a bad hire.
That's what I thought. I think Mullen can coach.
I do too. Obviously, we know he doesn't love recruiting. In fact, he probably hates it. But going to Vegas, with what they've done the last couple of years, they've been a team that's surprised in this past season. Played really good football, and it was Barry Odom moving on, and Brendan Marion as well. To bring in a coach like Dan Mullen, who's coached at a really high level, I think it's a surprisingly good hire for UNLV, all things considered.
What do you think about the other 2 names? You're very familiar with Rich Rodriguez, as are we all who covered the Pac-12. He's back now at West Virginia, and then also a retread in Scott Frost at Central Florida.
Yeah, so UCF going with Scott Frost, and West Virginia said, "Hold my beer, let me bring back Rich Rod."
I think it's moonshine in West Virginia.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised by that, but it's they're good offensive minds. They've had, obviously we all kind of know their history and their success levels. They've been hit or miss. Scott Frost, I think, will be interesting to see what he does at UCF, trying to rekindle that magic that he created there before, bouncing to, where'd he go? Nebraska, I think.
Yeah.
And that, so, they're two coaches that have proven themselves that they can coach, that they can lead programs to success, and we'll see what happens. But I think, it'll just be interesting with those two.
Well, Steve, thank you for coming on with us. I know it's been quite the week for you, dropping Bartle bombs. I was thinking before I asked you the Witt question, I was like, man, a lot has happened in the last week for Utah football. It's been wild.
It's been pretty crazy. So the coaching search and National Signing Day last week, and now the transfer portal. It's been quite the week, and it's been hectic to say the least.
Well, thanks for keeping us up on it all, Steve. We appreciate you.
Great stuff, Steve.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy. Steve Bartle. Follow all of his work, all the latest and greatest on the Utes, KSLSports.com. And he's broken a lot of that news.
Yeah, Steve's on top of it. I'm really interested in the Witt decision.
How so?
I mean, even Steve said it sounded like he was gone. Like everything he had heard was that Witt was done. And then Witt flipped the script. And I bet you that was tough for Morgan. And I'm not trying to,
yeah, look at you
create drama.
Waves.
I'm not trying to at all. I fully believe Witt said, we can do better than this, and handing it off to Morgan right now is probably not ideal. I bet you Morgan would say, I'm ready. No, I can do it. I'm fine.
I'm not convinced, and I have no idea. This is a complete guess, and we'll never know. But I'm not convinced that the good or bad nature of last season impacted his decision at all.
Okay.
I just think it's tough to give up. And
I'm
not saying that he made the decision whenever. And that's why I asked Steve, the timeline. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying it's tough to go. It's tough to
step out of the spotlight.
He makes a lot of money.
You make a ton of money. You're powerful. You're famous. People love you.
And it's your routine. It's your job. He's been there forever. And it's his life. It's hard to move on. It's hard to give that up.
And
it's hard.
It's such a unique opportunity.
Right.
Very few people ever get that opportunity. It's why coaches have a hard time stepping away.
It is.
Period. That's why they stick around in broadcasting when they don't need the money. There's a lot of reasons why coaches hang around.
There are. And it's their identity. And I get it. I totally get it.
And it's their passion.
Right. So making that decision it's not easy. And by the way, he's super healthy.
And is a good coach.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if he was bad. He's really good at his job.
And everybody brings up his dad and when his dad passed. And I get that. But have you ever seen the picture of you'd have to get Lloyd, but there was a quarterback / punter that played for the Raiders when he was 42. Mm-hmm. And if you put his picture, and I think it was the 70s or the 80s, but 80s, I think, if you put his picture up against a picture of Tom Brady playing at 42, you're like, whoa,
yeah.
I can't believe that person. Those people are the same age?
Right.
I mean, 64 doesn't mean what 64 was 40 or 50 years ago. You know what I mean?
It doesn't at all. It doesn't at all.
So I would get Coach Witt going, I feel fine.
Yeah.
I've got as much energy now as I've ever had. Look at these calves. I'm not stepping aside. And he can coach.
That's the most important part.
And that's the thing. I mean, we joke about the arrogance of it, but what's best for the program? Well, Kyle Whittingham's a really good coach, and probably what's best for the program.
Kyle Whittingham is going to be the greatest coach the University of Utah ever has.
And that's no slight to Morgan, who you're right. I'm sure he's dying to get the job. It's what he wants. It's what he's always wanted.
Yep.
So, you got to be a little patient. He'll be fine. He's an adult. He's been waiting a while now. Yep. Yeah, I told you. I brought it up. He waited an extra year to get the defensive coordinator job because Coach Witt thought he would benefit from it. And I bet you Morgan, in hindsight, would say, yeah, I absolutely did.
Yep.
It's hard to give up. Wow, I ride my bicycle to work every day, and I make millions of dollars. Yeah. This is wonderful.
We've been trying to push DJ out of the building for a long time.
Oh, don't
He won't let his hands off.
DJ should never leave.
The jaws of life.
You know, David James is like frozen at 42, right? You know, he hasn't aged since he was like 42.
People keep checking their clock. Watch every time DJ is like,
Cole Bagley, who is significantly
but I'm with
younger.
You. He's still in his prime. DJ, stick around forever.
Is going to join us next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what are you doing?
Well, now, it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs! Cheap bangs!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. With complete coverage of the Utah Hockey Club, this is Cole Bagley of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thank you, Ute Shasta Trailer. This is the reason why you are one of my very favorite listeners of all time. He tweeted a picture of George Blanda to me, who is the quarterback and kicker for the Raiders that I was talking about. Yeah. Look at our guy George. That's his picture. Yeah, right. That's his picture at 42.
Yeah. Oof. I told you, Roy Orbison. I was shocked when I learned that he died at like 51.
I mean,
because Roy looks 100 years old.
Tom Brady looks like he's 18 compared to George Blanda.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he could be his. He could be his son.
Life expectancy is a thing.
Yeah. Well,
health has improved. There's no way that Blanda wasn't a smoker.
Oh yeah,
look at that guy.
While he was kicking the ball.
Yeah, I have no idea if he did or if he didn't, but just looking at him, that guy absolutely.
He did.
He's got a pack of Camels in his pocket right now.
Yeah.
Rest his soul, I'm sure.
Yeah. Buried with a cigarette in his mouth.
Want to remind you, KSL's Quarters for Christmas is underway, raising money for local children in need. 100% of the money received is returned to the community to provide kids with shoes, clothing, and coats. You can donate online at kslquarters.com or any Deseret Book location. All right, it's time to talk a little hockey. Joining the show now, he covers the Utah Hockey Club for KSLSports.com. He's our buddy Cole Bagley. What's going on, Cole?
Not much. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Great game last night. Am I wrong? It just feels like the hockey club's they've kind of taken it to the next level. They seem to be playing more cohesively. The goaltending's a lot better, but the power play's better. It just feels like everything's working a little bit smoother than it was over the last month or so.
Yeah, this team is playing really, really good hockey over the last couple weeks. They've really just started to figure it out, I think, in a lot of different ways. Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther have been absolutely unbelievable. Some of the veterans are starting to step up. And if you look at the stats since November 23rd, Utah Hockey Club is tied for first in road wins with 6, second in goals with 38 and a differential of plus 17, second in power play percentage at 37.5%, third in road goals a game at 4.29, fourth in regulation wins with 5, fifth in penalty kill percentage at 84.9%, and tied for fifth in wins and points percentage. So that is a elite list. This team is playing incredibly good hockey. It just feels like they've started to figure it out and that they're being rewarded for their efforts that earlier in the season weren't necessarily resulting in wins.
So Ben and I were talking about this a little bit earlier with the road win streak going on. If there were, let's say if there were 100 factors in determining the outcome of your average NHL game, where would home ice rank out of that 100?
That's a really good question. It's tough, and I actually was thinking about this yesterday because I was on with DJ and PK, and they asked me, why is the team winning so many games on the road and not winning as many at home? And I don't know if I can rank it out of 100, but I definitely would say that home ice advantage during the regular season, maybe it might be more effective in the playoffs, and probably is, but I think across professional sports, I think home ice advantage has the least impact on the outcome of games as compared to, home court advantage in the NBA, home field advantage in the NFL and college football. I just with how the game is played and kind of how removed the sport is from fans with the boards and everything. And, I just don't know that it has as big of an impact. I'm not saying that it's zero. And I definitely think there is an impact in the playoffs, when you're able to pack a barn and the place is going crazy. But I think as well, you have to look at the strength of schedule for the Utah Hockey Club at home as compared to the road. I mean, if you just look at the last couple games they played at home, it's the best teams in hockey. It's Carolina, it's Vegas, it's Washington, it's Edmonton, it's Dallas, it's Minnesota. Like, those are all the top 5-6 teams in the NHL. Whereas when you look at the road schedule, it's a struggling Boston, it's struggling Pittsburgh. It's an up and down Toronto team. It's a struggling Montreal team. It's Buffalo and Philly, who are just middle of the pack and whatnot. Obviously, they played a pretty decent Colorado team last night, but they're not playing at an elite level right now. So I think home ice is not quite as effective or as important as it is in other sports. But as well, you just have to kind of consider the schedule that they've had on the road and at home. It's been vastly different here at the Delta Center.
I think one of the things I'm trying to figure out, especially because I cover the NBA and so much of it is about judging the trajectory of young players. I'm trying to figure out what the trajectory is of two you've already mentioned in Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther. Guenther obviously jumped out to a huge hot start, cooled off a little bit, but he has just been awesome. 2 goals last night. I mean, are these two guys likely the future faces of the franchise? Are they already getting there? I mean, what does that timeline look like, and how good can they be?
Yeah, I actually outlined that this morning, just based on the incredible production that these two have been putting together this season. When you break it down, Logan Cooley's up 54, on track to finish 54% with 54% more production than he did last season. And Guenther is averaging nearly a point per game, that's very, very good in the National Hockey League, up from 0.77 points per game last year in just 45 appearances. So I think, to answer your question, these are two very good hockey players. I think Dylan Guenther has superstar potential. I think a little bit more so than Logan Cooley, but I still think Cooley has that definite star potential, maybe superstar potential. I just think when you look at Guenther's game, the ability that he has to score goals and to facilitate, there's parts of his game that actually remind me a bit of Alexander Ovechkin. Now, I don't think that he's going to be, quite as good as the future all-time leading goal scorer. But, when you watch Guenther play in the offensive zone, when you watch, how he moves, and how he's actually recently adjusted his game to get open, elite goal scorers find ways to put the puck in the net despite being bombarded and, covered so closely by the defense. If you guys remember, he started off really hot and then went about 2 weeks without scoring a goal. And then since then, he's now leading the Utah Hockey Club in goals and points. And a lot of that has come over the last few weeks. And I think the difference is, if you watch him in his movement, he's generating traffic. He talked about this last night, that he wants to make an emphasis of generating movement, of getting open. And when you watch the way that he scored goals, he's taking shots from essentially the same place. It's the left face-off circle. Everybody knows where it's coming from, but he's making sure that he's losing himself in the defense, that he's moving and that he's making them forget about where he is, and where he's at on the ice, so that he can then get open and take a shot. Because when he takes a shot, there's a very high chance that it's going to go in. And so, I think in terms of a timeline, I don't know, it's tough to say, but right now, they're they're playing so much better than they were last season even. And they're so young, 21 and 20. That's ridiculous. These guys are two of the best players, if not, the two best players currently on the Utah Hockey Club's roster. And so, I mean, you maybe give these guys 3-4 years, they could both be superstars by that point.
What do they need to do to get back into the league lead for penalty minutes?
Jake's got an
They're
axe
in
to grind.
second, man.
Jake
They've
wants
fallen.
more penalty kill.
Yeah, they've definitely improved, and I think the message has just finally been received that, guys, we got to quit taking bad penalties, and you've seen the direct results. They're not spending as much time in the box, and they're not allowing as many power play goals to the other team, and it's resulting in wins. So hopefully they can continue to decrease that.
I don't think there's a direct correlation there, Cole. Not at all. Cole Bagley covers the Utah Hockey Club for KSLSports.com. Thank you, Cole. We appreciate you.
Of course. Anytime, guys.
There you go. Get the latest and greatest. Do they set the all-time record for consecutive road victories for a team in the first year in the city in which they play?
Against Macklin, Celebrini, and the San Jose Sharks this weekend. We'll see.
And the Sharks are not good.
No, they had the number 1 overall pick, Celebrini. Now, they were trailing Utah in the third period, 4-1 earlier in the season, and won a game in overtime 5-4.
I remember that one.
So you're looking for a little revenge here.
By the way, Cole's appearance on the show is brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. We wrap up the Jake and Ben show coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
And he picks BYU.
Yes! 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 Yes!
The number 1 recruit in the country, AJ Dybantsa, going to BYU.
He's coming to freaking Provo. Oh, jeez. And he's going to BYU. Look at this, man. You cannot buy this publicity for BYU. This is unbelievable. It truly is. Are we lit or what? For a guy who's done no winning, Kevin Young can't stop winning. I mean, the only thing he's won now is just a few games against inferior competition. I mean, this guy is winning big time, man.
Crushing it in the recruiting.
This is sensational.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him made Jake's Alonso, loves his tie-dye, Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my. From the islands to the basketball courts.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This segment is brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Peach Doors and Windows. I still find it hilarious. Bill Belichick is going to be the head coach in North Carolina. He had his press conference yesterday.
Coach is coach. I totally understand that. We were just talking about it with Witt. Witt's inability to walk away. And look, I don't think Witt needs to walk away. Witt's still very much in his prime. Witt is more in his prime than Bill Belichick is. And Witt is keeping the job with continuity of what he's already been doing. Bill is trying to do something entirely different. And while there are probably more similarities today between the NFL and college football than there have ever been in the past, I just got to think he's walking into a buzzsaw.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's not an easy job.
It's not an easy job, period.
Right.
Nice thing is expectations are relatively low. Like, this is probably better than taking the Alabama job. But honestly, like...
Oh, no. See, that's the problem, is expectations are going to be
because he's Bill
unrealistically
Belichick.
high because he's Bill Belichick. Yeah.
You're probably right, and they're probably paying him a fortune. And they give Sutton a job.
Oh, they are. Did $10 million a year.
Oof.
He's going to be so mad when he shows up and these dudes suck compared to what he was used to in the NFL.
And they do.
I mean, how many NFL players does Carolina have on a year-to-year basis?
3.
Maybe 1 or 2?
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. You'll have a lineman. You'll have 1 athlete.
The thing is, though, if anything can box out North Carolina basketball for resources, maybe it's Bill Belichick, because there is talent in that part of the country.
There is.
And North Carolina is a great school in a cool town and all the things. So maybe we're underselling Belichick, but he's never done this job. Coaching in college and coaching in the NFL are 1,000% different.
1,000%.
It's the reason why college coaches don't often work in the NFL, because the skill set used to succeed at either level is not the same.
Now, Harbaugh's done it well, but Harbaugh also had the advantage of cheating.
Well, he put a mustache on a staff member.
Connor Stallions or whatever his name was.
And had him film the opposition.
And then once he got caught, what did he do? He went back to the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't think Bill will be long for college.
He'll come in and cheat. I don't think he'll get caught.
Or maybe he doesn't. He goes back to the NFL, right? He's got a $1 million buyout next summer. So he will be gone by then. I would imagine that's why that was put in place.
I don't know. This feels like a retirement job to me. I don't know. Will he go back to the NFL?
Maybe. I think if he wants to coach, he's going to realize how bad coaching is in college football, and maybe he's willing to give up on some of his demands.
What a crappy job it really is.
It's a bad job.
Yeah.
It's not a good job. I don't think coaching most places is a good job of any kind. There's a reason so many good college football coaches have retired. It's not a fun thing to do, especially if you've been in the NFL, which is so luxurious.
And recruiting and all that stuff wasn't fun to begin with.
Right.
And just has gotten worse. But I mean, but Urban Meyer is the ultimate example of how a skill set as a coach is not applicable, is entirely different.
Right. No, Harbaugh's a bit of a unicorn with his ability to do both. Jimmy did it.
I think no, that's not fair. I was going to say where Harbaugh coached in college might have had something to do with that. But you know what? He killed it at Stanford.
Yeah,
and he killed it at San Diego before that.
Yeah.
So
he's a very good coach.
Yeah.
He is. And Bill's a good coach. I mean, I don't doubt Bill's ability to put together game plans, et cetera, and make players better.
But that's not what wins in college.
It's not really what wins in college. And if he thinks his Toop is going to do it for him, working above him, whoever his general manager is.
Oh, yeah. What was that guy's name? He was on with Armpit yesterday.
Mario? I can't remember.
No, it's...
Anyway. Yeah, who knows? Who cares?
His GM for football, Toop. I like that name better.
It's not going to
Lombardi?
do it for
What's his name?
Lombardi.
Yeah, Lombardi.
Yeah, the Toop is not going to. It's not going to win you games. That alone's not going to win you games.
Well, that Toop's not getting you any recruits. I'll tell you that.
Right. That's different than Deion Sanders coming into your house.
Yeah. Deion, no, he's wearing a cowboy hat, not a Toop.
Right.
How long ago was that a squirrel, sir?
Actually, he's still moving. I got him in the front yard.
Excuse me. Did your hair just meow?
Is that our cat? So, yeah, I'm curious about it. I will be drawn in. North Carolina will be on TV. Colorado was on TV a bunch last year, even before they were good, and now they're good. They were on TV this year as a result. It will draw eyeballs, which I wonder if we're just getting to that point where celebrity matters more than...
It's the circus.
...than anything else. Yeah, you just want to have the biggest, baddest lion, regardless of how many clowns it eats.
I mean, then Deion's had a good year at Colorado.
He did. He did have a good year. And still, the best thing he did was just bring eyeballs to Colorado.
Right. That's his superpower. We're talking about people too. Deion's a celebrity. And celebrity attracts people.
And so maybe that's all that people care about, branding. If you can brand yourself as a place where people should go because another big name is there, maybe that works.
But it will be hilarious the first time he gets a underclassman quarterback and says, "Hey, you, go make that throw." And then they can't. What is he? Wait. Tom used to just make that throw. Yeah. I told him to go out and throw that touchdown.
Man, how many guys was he not able to do it with at?
Well, you thought Mac Jones was going to be
the Patriots.
A Pro Bowler, and it turns out he has a better shot at being a Pro Bowler.
Pro Bowler. Couldn't do anything with Cam Newton. Try the Cam. Yeah.
Well, that was a terrible idea
but
to begin with. But
exactly.
That was Bill's terrible idea.
Correct. Exactly. So I'm not sure I trust his decision making, which is funny in retrospect that everyone was saying, like, Tom, it's all Bill. It's not Tom. It's like, do you think that's true?
Nobody ever said that.
A lot of people thought it was all Bill.
Said
and that,
no
like,
one.
Aaron Rodgers was a better quarterback. A lot of people made that argument.
Said no one ever.
A lot of people made that argument. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is actually better. Or Peyton was actually better. Tom's only good because he has Bill. It's like, are you insane?
You
and
obviously,
a lot of people thought that.
Obviously did not do a show with Gordon Monson, who would give Tom Brady credit for things that he wasn't even like related to. You know, like somebody.
Did you see how hard that guy blocked?
Yeah, no, somebody would win the lottery in Georgia, and Gordon would find a way to be like, it was Tom who did that.
Such a great leader.
Lloyd knows what I'm talking about. I don't know anybody who gave Bill Belichick any credit.
Oh, there are entire think pieces about who is the genius. Is it Tom or is it Bill? That is an argument as old as time.
When it came time to have a roast, who was merely on the dais
I'm with
and
you.
who was the roastee? Nobody gives Bill Belichick any credit.
I was not of the opinion that Bill was the one who deserved credit for that. Bill Belichick deserves more credit for Tom Brady's success, Colin Cowherd says. And if there's all these sports, every sports take is this. ESPN 2016, how much of Bill Belichick's success is because of Tom Brady? 100% of it. Mike Reese, all of it. All of it is because of Tom. Simple. End of story. It's a 12-word story.
All right, coming up next.
How much of Bruce Arians' Super Bowl ring is due to Tom Brady? 1,000%? Yeah, all of it. Correct. All of it.
Which is what everybody has always said.
How much of Mike Evans' Super Bowl ring is due to Tom Brady? Yeah, guys, all of it. The quarterback. It's always been the quarterback.
See, 99% of the country agrees with you. I don't know who all these people are.
I think they do now. Google Tom Brady, success, Belichick, and you've got 1,000 hits.
You just read us a couple that gave all the credit to Tom Brady.
Yard Barker. Tom Brady's success does not diminish Bill Belichick's greatness. Shannon Sharp finally admits it was Tom Brady, not Bill Belichick, who won the Super Bowls. Yeah, this is...
Do you know how many bozo things Shannon Sharp says on like a daily basis?
It is being said.
Oh, man. Hans and Scotty G are coming up next.
Thanks, Christian.
Stay tuned. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.